Hey everyone, I'm Almar of almarsguides.com, and in this video here I'm going to be talking about my Conqueror build in Titan Quest. So to get started, let's go through the talent trees. We'll start with Warfare and then we'll explain defense. So on the left side of the Warfare tree, the only thing I get is weapon training right here because I'm not a dual wield Conqueror, so I skip the entire dual wield tree. I also get Battle Rage, and I put 1 point into each of the passives. Typically for leveling up, I'd only dump a few points into Battle Rage, and the passives that come with it aren't very good, but Battle Rage itself can be pretty good. It gives you a flat increase for offensive ability, and many people call this a boss killing ability because it gives you such high offensive ability, which means you'll be able to crit the shit out of the boss, and you'll be able to hit them all the time too, because higher offensive ability increases your chance to hit the enemy as well as your chance to critical hit the enemy depending on what the enemy's defensive ability is. Now, you also have dodge attacks, which you want to max out, battle standard, which is going to be one of your bread and butter abilities, as well as the battle standard passive. So if essentially battle standard buffs you and all allies that are in radius and debuffs the enemies if you have the passive that comes along with it. And then onslaught, as well as the entire onslaught tree. This is going to be your left click ability and basically one of the most important abilities for this entire build and many warfare builds. Warwind, usually you skip it. I mean, if you want another ability to hit, you either get Warhorn or Slam. Warhorn is probably the best optional ability out of all of them that you can get for a Conqueror in the Warfare tree, because this will stun all enemies in a radius around you, and it has a very short cooldown, and most enemies in Titan Quest are susceptible to stuns, and there is no diminishing returns in Titan Quest as well, because it's a much older game. However, keep in mind that a lot of enemies do have stun resistance, which means you're not going to get the full duration of your stun. I'm pretty sure with max points in a Warhorn, the stun is something like 5 to 6 seconds, I think. So you'll probably only get like maybe 1 to 2 seconds tops usually off of most enemies. However, it'll still work as an interrupt, even if, you don't get the full duration stun. So that is worth mentioning. Slam is, Ancestral Horn, before we explain Slam, you basically want to skip Ancestral Horn. It's just not good for this build. Slam is going to be it's an interesting ability. I'm pretty sure this is one that was added in Atlantis, and it's good for Conquerors when you are in lackluster gear. I like to use this ability to basically when you're kiting around bosses in between Colossal Form cooldowns, or after Colossal Form fades, rather. You basically just run around, kite the boss, and throw slams at him, and also throw unyielding phalanxes at him. And that's a useful way of beating bosses when your gear sucks and you can't really tank them and you can't really stay in melee range. However, it is an optional ability. It's worth mentioning too that it's great for archers because it gives impaired aim, skill disruption, and stun. So it will interrupt them, stun them, and impaired aim basically reduces their accuracy towards you. So it's very, very good to just throw out a pack of archers while you're fighting another group of enemies some distance away. So let's jump over to the defensive tree. We'll explain the abilities in here, why I got them, and etc., etc. So you have Adrenaline and the entire Adrenaline tree. I personally like this tree, so I usually put a few points into it at first, and then I just leave it until the end of the game when I have an abundance of skill points. Then I finish maxing out the Adrenaline tree. So we also have Rally and the tree that comes with Rally. Only put a few points into Rally depending on what your max health is, because if you max it out, it heals for 8,000, and not many people have 8,000 health. And then I put 1 point into Inspiration to continue into the next skill. You can put more into Inspiration if you want, depending on how much you care about the energy regeneration. For this class, it's actually for this build, it's actually somewhat useful since we have no energy regen at all. I think it gives 16 energy regeneration at the max, which would be 5% energy regeneration per second for our build, which actually isn't that bad. But Defiance is the more important passive because this one increases your elemental resistances, which is very, very good. You can basically use Rally once every so often to boost your elemental resistances, and this will give you more leeway with your gear. You won't have to focus so much on elemental resistances with your gear because you'll get so much of it from Defiance and Rally. So Battle Awareness, this is a must-have for basically all defense characters, as well as the passives. The passive Iron will basically give you 100% resists to all your secondary resistances, which is amazing. Quick recovery, a lot of people call this ability a one-point wonder. I don't disagree with them. If you have a good amount of recharge, aka cooldown reduction gear, then you can keep quick recovery up 24/7, which makes it much, much better. One of the main things that quick recovery does is it allows you to block multiple times a second. Usually there's an internal 3-second cooldown on blocking, which means you can only block one attack every 3 seconds. Quick recovery allows you a way around that, which is very good to keep in mind and worth remembering. So you have shield charge and the passive that comes with it, disruption. I definitely recommend shield charge. Only put a few points into it at first. The passive that comes with it, I really like too, because it comes with a skill disruption. So shield charge is basically just good for like closing the gap on enemies. It's also good if to use when enemies are in your face as well, if you want to stun them and or disrupt them. So if you're fighting like a group of casters, you can just shield charge while you're standing like right in their face, and it will just stun them all and disrupt their skills, which is quite useful. Batter you want to skip over because we have onslaught, no point in getting batter. Down the right hand side skill tree for defense, you want to grab all of these passives. They're very, very good, unless you are a dual wield Conqueror. Then you want to skip shield smash and pulverize. However, the disable, no, never mind, you want to I think you want to skip all of them because they all use a shield. Shield smash, disable, it says it uses a shield, and pulverize says it uses a shield too. So if you're dual wield Conqueror, you don't want anything to do with those. Colossus form, it really barely needs an explanation. One of the best cooldowns you can get in the defensive tree. Perfect block, I don't really like. It's a very, very short duration that I guess invulnerability is what you would call it. Yeah, invulnerability. It's up to you if you want to get it. It kind of reminds me of like Bubbles, the Paladin Bubble in World of Warcraft. I don't really like it because it greatly slows down your attack speed and casting speed, but I mean, it has its uses. Unyielding Phalanx, this is one of my favorite abilities in the defense tree. This makes like a little wall of spirit enemies that you can, let me show you real fast. Right here. These attack the enemies as well as prevent the enemies from getting through them. It's a very, very good ability. It does insanely good DPS. I love it. So let's look at my gear real fast. I'm going to mouse over a lot of these real fast. The Einherjar's Fate I'm going to explain in more detail in a second, but I want to show you all my gear first. For the most part, I focus on resistances. I prefer to be more tanky than a glass cannon, especially for this build. I really like tanky builds, so I focus more so on resists than anything else, which is really all you need to know about my gear. I should have a little bit more plus skills, like my Bracers of the Argonaut. I can swap them out for Stonebinder's Cuffs if I wanted to get +3 more to all skills, but I opted to not do that. Myrmidon's Pendant, I could probably find something better, but I like the flat physical damage boost that it gives, and then the rest of my armor is basically just resists. So, like I said, I was going to explain Einherjar's Fate. This is one of 2 weapons that are basically must-haves for a Conqueror. Sabertooth is the first one, which you get in Act 3 from the Tigerman. And basically, the way you're going to play a Conqueror is this. Get to Act 3, grind out a Sabertooth, and then you're going to carry that, or have that weapon carry you until Act 5, when you can get an Einherjar's Fate from Asgard. And then that will carry you all the way until Act 3 on the next difficulty. And then you get another Sabertooth, wait until Act 5, get an Einherjar's Fate, and you just rinse and repeat between those 2 weapons the entire time. Also, as you can tell by my resists, I'm a little bit lacking in poison res, which is not very good, I might add. And my vitality res is a little low too, which is why I carry around this, Apples of Idun. It's a nice gear swap, which gives me a shit ton of vitality resistance, which we're going to need for the boss coming up, Hades, because he does primarily vitality damage. Now, let me show you a little bit of this build. We're going to run through Hades' Palace real fast, and we're going to kill Hades, because I would like to show you how it all works. And there's one thing you should keep in mind, is I am level 66 right now, which is quite low level for where we are. However, you might notice I'm not having any issues with the enemies here. And that is for two reasons. One, because Conquerors are extremely overpowered, and two, because my gear is great. This is one of those builds that is like, if you make it, you can basically guarantee that you can kill everything in the game. There's not going to be like a point where you hit in the game where you're like, oh my god, I should have gotten XYZ, or I should have done, you know, XYZ with my attributes, and then I would be able to continue. You might notice too, the damage I put out for being a tank is quite insane. So as far as playing this build goes, for the most part, you don't need to drop your battle standard for regular enemies like this. If you encounter a large pack like this, it would be advisable to drop your battle standard. As you can see, it has quite the range. And what I like to do is I like to shield charge into a pack of enemies, and then once I get into the pack of enemies, I will hold down shift to attack them all. I don't like I don't like the alternative of that, not holding down shift, because I have a tendency to like run back and forth when I'm trying to attack enemies in this game. It seems, especially when you're in Colossus form, it's a lot worse. Because if you just like misclick on an enemy a little bit, then you run past them, and then you try clicking on him again, and then he moves, and then you run past him again, and back and forth, and you spend so much time running back and forth trying to attack shit. That's just because I'm bad, though. I'm sure other people that are super skilled at this game won't have that issue, and will laugh at me for having that issue. But that's okay. So, as you can see, it's very, very basic here. If I had my Warhorn optional ability, that would give me another ability to hit every so often. However, for the most part, we basically just do just fine with Onslaught. So let me show you the power of Unyielding Phalanx. I'm not going to attack at all. We're just going to let the Unyielding Phalanx basically kill everything. Or kill as much as they can before they disappear. So as you can see, they killed about half the enemies. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything right now. And I'm still basically healing to full. My hands are actually not even touching the keyboard right now. And these enemies can't do anything to kill me. They're actually killing themselves based on some like thorns I have or something like that. So that is the strength of a Conqueror. And also the strength of a Conqueror with high defensive ability. That's worth mentioning too. The Bracers of the Argonaut that I got right here, they give me a shit ton of offensive and defensive ability, which is the main reason that I'm using them over Stonebinder's Cuffs. We're going to run by these guys real fast because I want to get to Hades. La-di-di-da. I want to drop another Unyielding Phalanx because I find them... Oopsies. Because I find them fun. Yes, decimate the enemies, my Unyielding Phalanxes. As you can see, they killed everything. I didn't attack a single time there. Love it. Love that ability. My favorite defensive ability ever. And it was added in Atlantis too. So you'll need Atlantis in order to actually even use that. For what it's worth. And that's another usefulness of shield charge if you were paying attention there. If not, rewind the video like 15 seconds. But it's really useful for quickly closing the gap or quickly fast traveling between one area and another. You can just zip on over there. Colossus form works for that too. I don't like using Colossus form for regular enemies because of the back and forth that I was talking about before, where it's really difficult to actually click on something, especially when you're like this big towering thing. As you can see, that's where I started out before I started the video. I have been here before. I'm going to do an Unyielding Phalanx right here in the middle. So as you can see, archers still ouchie us. It's because our Pierce Res, is it max? Yes, it is. So even with max Pierce Res, archers still ouchie us. And that's because archers in Titan Quest are insanely overpowered and need to be feared. Another reason why slam is so good, because you can just slam the pack of archers in the distance, impair their aim, and then they can barely hit you. They go from doing a shit ton of damage and basically destroying you to barely being able to even hit you, which is lovely. So we'll do the Warden of Souls real fast too before we do Hades. And it's, again, worth mentioning that I am very low level, so keep that in mind. If I was level 85, this would be a lot less, like, remarkable, but the fact that I'm only level 66 and the mobs are, like, 20 levels above me, almost 20 levels above me, is quite a deal. I actually messed that up. Damn it, drop my battle standard. So as you can see, I ate him alive. And as far as attributes go, allocation while you're leveling up, for the most part, you put almost all of them into strength. However, you're going to want to put some into dexterity too for gear, especially if you plan on using Stonebinder's cuffs. I usually recommend like 8 points into strength to maybe 3 points in dexterity, and then I usually dump every maybe like 10th or 12th point into health, depending on how I feel I am doing. And also, when you get to the level I am, like as you can see right now, I'm really not having issues with anything. So I'm stuck at an impasse. I can either dump more into strength or and do just more damage, unnecessarily more damage, or I can dump a little bit in energy to make it so I'm potting a whole bunch less, and more into health to make sure I can survive through basically everything. So, we're about to do Hades. So, we want to watch out for his big blob that he throws. That one right there, because it'll shotgun you if it hits you. Let me drop my battle standard since I always forget to do it. And for Hades, you need to remember the internal cooldown on that one ability that I just pointed out. Oh no, he wasn't too happy with my battle standard. So we're going to go Colossus form and just decimate him real fast. The power of Colossus form. We should have used it when my battle standard was up, but I wanted to, I didn't want to embarrass myself and die during this video. Especially after such a good intro. So I didn't want to take the risk. We wanted to bait out his worst attack. And there you go. Barely difficult at all. Mostly because I have captive vitality resistance, but yeah, barely difficult at all.
You have to.
And that's all there is to it. That is the Conqueror build in Titan Quest. As far as the remaining 20 levels that I have to go, I'm going to be maxing out Adrenaline. We're going to max out probably the Rally passives. I don't know how much more I'll dump in a Rally. I'll max out Quick Recovery, max out Shield Charge, and we're going to max out Unyielding Phalanx, Colossus Form, and probably a few more things in the Onslaught tree. I might get Slam just for shits and giggles. We'll probably max out everything in Battle Rage just because we're going to have abundant skill points. And that's basically all there is to it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys around the next video. Peace.